She thought you'd always be there. She thought she could push you away, ignore your worth, and you'd still come running every single time. She mistook your loyalty for weakness, your patience for desperation. But this time you disappeared, and what she never expected was how loud that silence would hit. Listen to me carefully. There's a moment in every man's life when something inside him snaps, not out of anger, but out of clarity. That's the moment when you stop chasing and start choosing yourself. That's the moment when she realizes she didn't lose a man who begged for love. She lost the one who could have given her everything. And when that silence stretches, it doesn't just make her miss you. It breaks her illusion of control. This is not about playing games. This is about power, real power, the kind that doesn't scream, doesn't beg, doesn't prove, the kind that walks away and lets absence echo louder than words ever could. She will replay it. She will question it. She will feel it, because nothing haunts the ego like a man who didn't come back. And that's why I want you to stay with me until the very end of this video, because what I'm about to tell you will flip the entire dynamic. You'll understand why walking away isn't losing. It's winning in silence. You'll learn why your disappearance speaks louder than any apology, any message, or any second chance ever could. This is where the chase ends and your power begins. Silence is power, and most people don't truly understand what that means until they've experienced it. See, when you're chasing someone, you're not just giving them attention, you're giving them control. Every text you send, every call you make, every time you show up trying to prove your worth, you're unconsciously saying, "My value depends on your response." That is why silence is so uncomfortable at first. It's not just about not talking to them. It's about taking your power back from their hands. When a woman thinks you'll keep chasing, she builds a reality where your world revolves around her. She becomes the center, and you orbit around her emotional moods, her silence, her unpredictability. She knows she doesn't have to give much because your need for her makes you predictable. But the moment you go silent, the entire dynamic shifts. Suddenly, she doesn't hear your good morning texts. She doesn't see your name lighting up her phone. The constant energy she used to feel coming from you gone. And in that silence, something happens. She starts to feel the weight of your absence. Silence is unsettling to someone who thought they had control. At first, she'll brush it off. She'll think it's temporary. She'll assume you'll come back because that's what you always did. But silence isn't passive. It's active power. It forces people to face the reality they've been avoiding. It exposes who actually had the emotional strength in the connection. When you're silent, you're not begging for answers anymore. You're letting her sit with her own questions. And trust me, unanswered questions echo louder than any speech you could give. What makes silence powerful is that it disrupts the ego. Ego feeds on validation. It thrives when it knows someone is available, waiting, desperate to be chosen. But when the source of that validation disappears, ego panics. It searches for the control it once had. It starts replaying moments in its mind, trying to figure out where it lost its grip. That's when your silence starts speaking without a single word. It says, "I'm not here to be an option. I'm not here to chase what doesn't value me. I choose me." You don't have to argue. You don't have to explain. You don't have to beg someone to see your worth. Silence is your boundary. It's your statement of self-respect. It's your declaration that you are not here to be played with. And the beauty of silence is that it doesn't scream. It whispers in a way the mind can't ignore. Think about it. When someone disappears, you notice. Even if you act like you don't care, there's a part of your mind that replays their absence. That's the power of silence. It doesn't push. It doesn't pull. It creates space. And in that space, the truth begins to surface. If someone truly valued you, they will feel that silence deeply. If they didn't, Your silence will protect you from wasting yourself on someone who never deserved your energy in the first place. What silence also does is shift the frame. It's no longer about you trying to get their attention. It's about them realizing they lost yours. You stop being the follower in the story. You become the mystery. And let me tell you, nothing captures human attention more than mystery. When she no longer hears from you, she doesn't just miss your messages. She misses the feeling of being wanted. She misses the certainty of your presence. And that's when she starts to question herself. That's when the power dynamic flips. And here's the secret: most don't understand: silence doesn't just make her notice you. It makes her confront her own behavior. But let me be clear, this isn't about manipulation. This isn't about playing games. This is about reclaiming your dignity. It's about walking in silence, not to punish her, but to protect your soul from places it's not valued. It's about learning that your energy is precious and not everyone deserves unlimited access to it. The strongest statement you can ever make is to say nothing and walk away. Because in a world where everyone is shouting to be heard, silence is the loudest roar. And when your silence meets her ego, something cracks. She realizes she was never as in control as she thought. She realizes you were the prize all along. So choose silence, not because you're weak, but because you've finally remembered your worth. Don't let your voice beg for what your silence can end. The most powerful move isn't chasing. It's disappearing with dignity and letting the silence do what words never could. And if there's one thing you should remember after this, it's this: the loudest message you'll ever send is the one you don't say at all. Absence hits harder than words, and the truth is, most people never realize the weight of your presence until it's gone. Words can be ignored, messages can be left on read, calls can be declined. But absence is a mirror. It forces people to look at what's no longer there, and it leaves a silence that can't be muted. When you disappear, you don't just take yourself away, you take away the comfort, the validation, the energy they were used to receiving from you. That's why absence cuts so much deeper. When someone believes they have your attention on lock, they stop valuing it. They start treating your presence like background music, something they assume will always be there, waiting. But the moment that music stops, the room feels different. The silence becomes noticeable. The air shifts. That's exactly what happens when you pull your energy back. Your absence creates a space they can't escape, because it's not a message they can delete. It's an emotion they have to sit with. Psychologically, humans are wired to feel the loss of what was once consistent. Consistency builds a sense of safety and power. When she believed you'd always be there, she built her ego around that certainty. She didn't have to question your loyalty, your attention, your emotional investment. But the second that disappears, it triggers something powerful: uncertainty. And uncertainty is the ego's worst nightmare. She won't admit it at first. She'll act unbothered, maybe even laugh it off. But absence has a way of sinking in slowly, quietly, until it begins to echo in the places words never reached. She starts checking her phone more than usual, scrolling through old conversations, replaying little moments that she never paid much attention to before. The truth is, your absence creates a void that no one else can quite fill, because it's not about the person. It's about the energy, the emotion, the meaning she tied to you. Absence is powerful because it doesn't chase, it doesn't explain, it doesn't justify, it just exists. And the longer it lasts, the louder it becomes. People underestimate how much their actions are tied to what they think they can always have. When that certainty is gone, it forces reflection. And reflection can be brutal. She begins to question why you're gone. She wonders if she pushed too far. She replays the last moment you were fully present. Suddenly, she starts noticing the little things she ignored when you were right there in front of her. And here's the most powerful part: your absence doesn't just make her miss you. It makes her face herself. It forces her to confront her behavior, her choices, and the weight of her own ego. She realizes the security she felt in your pursuit has evaporated. She can't predict your next move anymore. She can't feed her ego with your attention. And that's when absence starts to sting. When you're no longer around to give her the validation she once took for granted. She starts searching for it elsewhere, but nothing feels quite the same. That's the thing about genuine energy. Once it's gone, it leaves an imprint that can't be copied. Other people might give her attention, but it won't quiet the H of the one that went silent. That's the difference between noise and presence. She might drown herself in noise, but presence, real presence, it echoes even in your absence. And this is where most men make a mistake. They break the silence too early. They rush back the moment she shows signs of missing them. But absence is only powerful when it's held with discipline. When you don't use it as a game, but as a reflection of your self-worth. You're not disappearing to punish her. You're disappearing to protect your value from being diminished any further. Absence makes people realize the reality they were blind to. It forces clarity where comfort once clouded everything. It reveals who actually valued you and who only valued your availability. And sometimes, it's not about her missing you as a person. It's about her realizing that what she thought was guaranteed is no longer hers to touch. Your absence isn't weakness. It's the quiet strength of someone who knows their worth isn't measured by how hard they chase. And when your absence hits, it doesn't just shake her, it shakes the illusion she built around your role in her life. So hold that absence like a weapon of self-respect. Let it echo louder than any speech you could ever give. Let it be the silence that forces truth to surface. And remember, this presence can be ignored, but absence cannot be forgotten. Self-respect changes the entire game, because the moment you decide that your worth isn't up for negotiation, everything around you starts to shift. When you choose yourself over chasing someone who undervalues you, that's not arrogance. That's alignment. That's the moment when you stop operating from a place of desperation and start standing from a place of power. And that shift is something people can feel, even if you don't say a single word. When you were chasing her, every move you made was about seeking her validation. You were waiting for her response, her attention, her approval. But the second you stepped back, not out of anger but out of respect for yourself, something powerful happened. You showed that your emotional world doesn't revolve around one person's indecision. You proved to yourself that your peace matters more than playing roles in someone else's emotional theater. Self-respect is not loud. It doesn't beg. It doesn't demand to be understood. It simply walks away from anything that disturbs its peace. And when you reach that level of quiet strength, people start to see you differently. She starts to see you differently. Because what's truly rare in today's world isn't looks, status, or money. What's rare is someone who refuses to beg for love they already deserve. When you choose self-respect, you create a boundary that can't be crossed. And boundaries are magnetic. They don't push people away. They filter out who's truly meant to be in your space. She might have expected you to keep showing up no matter how little she gave back. But your self-respect doesn't work like that. It doesn't accept crumbs. It doesn't feed on false promises. It recognizes when the energy is not mutual. And instead of trying harder, it simply lets go. This is why self-respect flips the dynamic. It puts the power back where it belongs, in your hands. You're no longer reacting to her mood swings, her games, or her uncertainty. You're simply choosing your own direction. And that independence, that emotional detachment, is something the ego cannot compete with. She's not used to being walked away from. She's used to being chased. And when that doesn't happen, it forces her to confront something uncomfortable. She's not the only one with value. When you truly respect yourself, you stop needing validation from people who give it to you in doses. You stop lowering your standards to keep temporary attention. You stop bending just to be chosen. And that's when everything changes. Because people can sense when someone values themselves deeply. They can feel when your energy isn't begging to be accepted. It's simply standing firm. Philosophically, self-respect is the foundation of any meaningful connection. Without it, love turns into attachment, attention turns into addiction, and connection turns into control. But when self-respect is intact, love becomes a choice, not a cage. Your energy becomes something rare, something not easily accessed. And that rarity creates value. It's not about playing hard to get. It's about being someone who refuses to be lost in someone else's story. She thought she had you wrapped around her finger. She thought she could pull back and you'd chase harder. But when you choose self-respect, you break that script. You stop being predictable. You stop being controllable. You become a storm she never saw coming. Not because you're trying to prove anything to her, but because you finally prove something to yourself. The truth is, people respect what respects itself. If you don't respect your own boundaries, no one else will. If you don't show people how to treat you, they'll treat you how it benefits them. But the moment you make it clear through your actions that your peace isn't for sale, the entire dynamic changes. Your presence becomes more powerful, your silence becomes sharper, and your absence becomes unforgettable. Choosing self-respect isn't about winning her back. It's not about making her regret losing you, even though she probably will. It's about making sure you never lose yourself again. Because at the end of the day, love without self-respect is just slow self-destruction disguised as devotion. And when you finally understand that, walking away stops feeling like loss. It starts feeling like liberation. So hold your self-respect like a shield, not a weapon. Let it protect your heart from places it doesn't belong. Let it remind you that your worth was never dependent on who stayed or who left. And let it guide you into spaces where love is returned with the same energy you give. Because here's the truth. The one who chooses their self-respect will always walk away stronger than the one who played with it.